Imagine for a moment that you were different, visually impaired, hearing impaired, dyslexic, or just learned differently. Now, imagine if you were told that you would no longer be in the general education classroom with your peers. Hello, my name is Chad Bergmeyer, and I'm going to be speaking about inclusion. Inclusion of students with special needs or disabilities inside of the general education classroom. There's a lot of reasons why people feel that segregation is needed for students with special needs. I'm going to inform you otherwise. According to the Department of Education, students with needs benefit, and so do those without needs. They both score higher when inclusion is present. Professional mixed martial artist Lee Sandmyers is considered hearing impaired. He has 90% hearing loss. He was in the general education classroom throughout his entire school career. However, he did have modifications and accommodations put into place throughout his school. But Lee also stated that had he been babied because of this, he would not be the man that he is today. I'm a father of 5 kids. Some of those kids have students inside their classrooms that do have special needs and could be considered disabled. I also work with an autistic student in the 1st grade, and he is part of the inclusion. This is a topic that I have done a lot of research about, and I also care deeply about. During my speech, I will define what inclusion is. I will provide evidence showing why it is important for all forms of learning, and also about what is needed inside of the school district as far as modifications and accommodations are concerned. Let's start first by defining what inclusion means for students. Inclusion is students with special needs or disabilities that are mainstreamed inside of the general education classroom setting. Now, they are included with students that do not have special needs. They are all together. FAPE is broken down as free, appropriate, public education. That entitles all students and parents to have their child attend public schools. According to futureofchildren.org, 95% of special education students spend 70% or higher of their time and their learning inside of the general education classroom. The same site states kids with disabilities don't suffer with the students that have them inside in their classroom. So it is important to remember as they grow into adults, not everyone is considered normal, and that working together and getting along is key. Inclusion is now defined. Let's move into some reasons of why it is effective and beneficial to have inclusion present inside of the general education classroom. Education does not just stop once the pencil is put down and the books are closed. There is also a social acceptance and learning and how to work with others to prepare these kids for the future. As I mentioned, a close friend of mine, Lee Sandmeyer, he is considered hearing impaired. He has 90% hearing loss. His learning was a lot different than mine was. He had a lot of challenges because of his hearing impairment. He also told me had he been babied as a child and had he been babied because of these issues, he would not be the man that he is today. Who is Lee Sandmeyer? He is a high school graduate, he's a college graduate, and he's a leader of his job. He's also a professional mixed martial artist with a record of 9-0, and he holds 2 belts. He is involved in a sport of mixed martial arts where hearing is everything. You've got to be able to listen to your coaches, and you've got to be able to use that to your strategy. Lee does not have those advantages, but it does not change his outlook or the outcome of how he performs. Now that I've given you the definition and discuss examples how it can impact lives, now let's look at accommodations and modifications that are made by the district. First, let's begin with an IEP, Individualized Educational Plan or Program. It is really important that the teachers find out what the IEP is on their students so that they can make the appropriate modifications and accommodations. According to Early Childhood Research Institute of Inclusion, they have categorized some of these as far as socially goes. Environmental support. That means that altering the physical, the social, and the environment altogether makes the modifications help promote the participation and engagement for social benefit of the students. Additional modifications and accommodations inside of the classroom for educational purpose begin with planning differentiated instruction that comes from the general education teacher as well as the special education teacher. The time allowed is another key factor that is a modification that's changed for the student to allow them the appropriate time that it's going to take them to complete their work, their test, and so on. The difficulty level could be changed as well as a modification. Level of support team, that just basically means that if they're going to be assigned an associate, a one-on-one associate, or if they're going to have other forms of needs met by a team together. Alternate goals and lengths of goals, this is a huge one as well. The goals have to be kept at a high standard, but they can't be out of reach as well. It has to be something that's fair for the student to try and achieve. The degree of participation in assistive technology. Assistive technology would be possibly using an iPad if the student has a handwriting issue where they can push the buttons on the technology. The next one that I want to talk about is the schedule. Some students have different schedules and they like to be able to see their schedule to help them throughout their day. When you're using a schedule as a modification, you're going to read from left to right always and also from top to bottom. Team building is the final slide that I have. Team building is very important inside the classroom. Just because a student learns differently or has a disability doesn't mean that they don't also have strengths. So when the teacher can expose the strengths for what they are, team building is key inside of the classroom to keep everybody together. Now let's summarize the key factors why inclusion is important inside of the classroom. Not only is it important for the students and the needs, but it also helps with the educators. As I mentioned from the slide above, the educators can also benefit inside of their classroom if the strengths of the students with disabilities are exposed and shown. Now you see why inclusion is considered an important aspect in children's lives. Instead of thinking about how damaging it could be for your child to have a student that has a learning disability inside of their room, look at it as a vital role in the social molding of your child's learning as well as educational value. In life, we miss so many opportunities. If I could pass on one thing to my children about preparing them for the world, the real world, it would be for them to have a greater understanding and be able to realize that everybody is different and special in their own unique way. A famous author, Maya Angelou, said, "If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude." What's best for students learning and socially when it comes to education? Inclusion. Thank you.